Just so everyone knows, we have 100 days left to make our nation right and to fix it. When Elijah Cummings rose to speak on the House floor in April of 1996 as the newly elected congressman from Maryland's 7th District, he was speaking to a nation that's been divided by race, class, international turmoil in the national election. It was in that environment, inspired by the undeniable need for unity and urgency, that he turned to the words of a doctor named Benjamin Mays, recited a short poem called Just a Minute by Mays. Basically, it goes, I have only just 1 minute, only 60 seconds into it, forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it, just a tiny minute, but eternity is in it. Now, I'm neither a poet nor a critic, and that's why I can't speak to what Dr. Mays' minute may have been at that time, but I can tell you that our minute as a nation today will be defined by the next 99 days. Of course, for years we have heard people say this is the most important election of our lifetime. I've borrowed the cliche myself a time or two, and I've seen the eyes roll. We've also explained how elections have consequences, calling the 2018 ballot the most consequential election of my lifetime, and I'll defend that characterization because if we hadn't recognized the urgency of that moment, we could not have been able to play some defense against the reckless Trump administration and the GOP agenda. But even though I am proud to see that Democrats are continuing to deliver on the promises made during this campaign, I also have to recognize truth when we see it. That was 2018, and this is still now, 2 years later. The threat that the radical right posed to our democracy then pales in comparison to what's happening now. I can't help but look at secret police snatching protesters from American streets, armed thugs occupying state houses in Kentucky and Michigan, and black men and women being murdered by police officers and White House leadership telling us to ignore the doctors during a deadly pandemic, and threatening to defund schools unless they reopen and put children's lives back at risk. Seeing this and more of the full scope of what's at stake, not only is this election the most important and consequential of our lifetime, but the next 99 days will define us as a nation and as people for at least the next generation. We are 99 days away from a choice that will change the direction and history of this country, but I don't need to remind you because you've seen it firsthand. You already know how critical it is to protect and expand the Democratic Party's majority in the House, and you don't need reminding that we badly need a Democratic majority in the Senate. You've seen how willing Senate Majority Leader Moscow Mitch is to use a national crisis as a smokescreen so he can push through the judicial appointments he needs to stack the courts for a lifetime. You've seen governors willing to ignore the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) guidelines to the COVID-19 and put lives at risk so they can look tough for their campaign contributors. If we don't win state elections in November, the GOP will withdraw the lines and gerrymander themselves into power for the next decade. Every issue you can imagine that impacts our quality of life will be on the ballot on November 3rd. Healthcare, education, voting rights, infrastructure, housing, criminal justice, wages, student debt, you name it, it's going to be all on that ballot. This is what's at stake, and this is our opportunity to make a difference. If you're tired of talking with nobody listening, if you're tired of a government that works for the rich and powerful but ignores the little people, if you're sick of being taken for granted, this is your moment. We have 99 days to make it right, so let's get to fucking work. Now, if you like the video, hit the like button, and then subscribe to the channel Ryan Van Wyk, and also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.